and welcome to the Retro Video Game Podcast known as Two Consoles Too Late. I am the host, Jackson Keebler, and I am Two Consoles Too Late. And what does that mean? Here at this podcast, we look at the classics and the not-so-classics of retro video gaming, often for the very first time, and with no nostalgia. And on this episode, we are returning to the shooter genre, and we're talking about R-Type for the Turbo Grafx-16. We're also going to have some Going Long, some Stick It, and over on Auction Alert, we're going to see what's out there if you're looking for a shooter for your retro console. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's go.
Going long, and he's going long, looking long. Going long, and he's going long, looking long.
So I've acquired much and many for the PS1 long box collection. Too much to talk about. After this, I'm going to go on over to the Patreon at patreon.com/2consoles2late and post a bonus podcast and go into full length about all my acquisitions over the past couple weeks. Because, once again, there has been many. And there's actually a pretty good story for some of them. But recent acquisitions include Total Eclipse Turbo. That was a game that I think was Solar Eclipse for the Sega Saturn was the sequel. Newsflash, they both suck. Not very good rail shooters. I also acquired a lot of games from the eBays. I got Need for Speed, Shell Shock, and Battle Arena Toshinden 1. And then I also picked up XCOM UFO Defense, which has me scratching my head, but I'm very intrigued. And I picked up Loaded and NBA Jam Tournament Edition from a local retro video game store. So a lot has been added to the collection. And my wife has purchased a shelving unit that can fully accommodate all 102 games of the PS1 long box collection, of which I think I'm up to 33 plus 45. No, it's not that many. It's getting up there, though. But still no bangers. And at the time of this podcast, I had a bid on Doom, and I thought this thing was mine, but I got sniped right there at the end. Should have increased my max bid, but it's one of those games. When I say banger, it's like it's something I kind of want to buy in person. I kind of want it to be a memorable event, than rather than just getting it off eBay. So a lot has been acquired, and so I'm not really in any rush to start picking up more games. So I might put the collection down till April, but me being me, it's like, the minute I say that, I'm going to go over to the shop Goodwills, and there's going to be a copy of like Tekken or something. So, but every Saturday, 7:30 a.m., check it out on Twitch and YouTube. I'm streaming a game from the Longbox collection. I think I'm going to try to get into XCOM UFO Defense. I've gotten a lot of comments on how that is a good game. It's just a little bit different and not what I'm used to. But it's also an excuse to pick up a mouse for the PS1. This week's Stick It is going to people who don't know how to use Google Lens. And this is why. I'm seeing a lot of posts on social media in video games. Now I'm starting to see it in typewriters where someone posts a picture of an object, whether it be a video game or a typewriter. And I'm guessing this happens in other collecting forums where someone will take a picture of whatever it is and ask the forum, what is this worth? And it really has me scratching my head, a term I like to use here at Two Consoles, of why are you not using the little computer in your pocket, taking a picture of that thing and putting it up on Google Lens? Because right away, Google will be like, hey, this is what it is, and this is usually what it sells for. That's typically your search results when you use Google Lens. But rather than do all that, they put up these crappy clickbaity posts about what is this worth? And I'm assuming that you already bought the object, so you already paid a certain amount. So by asking that question, are you looking for it to be worth more? I don't know. So I'm really tired of seeing these posts. And like most social media, I find myself increasingly frustrated. So to those people who don't know how to use Google Lens,
Stick it!
there you go. On episode 108, I postulated, portended, and proclaimed that I don't like the term shmup, and I still don't. I think it's lazy, I think it's a bad contraction of the term shoot 'em up, and yet it is a glossary word. So here we are, 51 episodes later, and I'm finally getting back to the genre, and I'm still battling against the term shmup.
He said it again!
But don't listen to me. Let's listen to others. What they think of the shoot 'em up known as R-Type. All right, so here we go in no particular order. Once again, my post generated 60 comments, so I'm not going to read them all, but I'll try to get some of them in there. Robert says, I had it and Blazing Lasers back in my teens. Yes, the difficulty is high, but I still have fond memories of playing it. Will says, you had to be there. Okay. David says, skill issue. The force pod is there for a reason. Make use of it. Well, David,
Stick it!
I did, and it just didn't work. Nick says it's a true classic at its time. There's nothing like it. Soren, I'm guessing from Scandinavia, asks, am I new to gaming? Yes. It's in the name, 2 consoles, too late. Rick says, considering that Grafx-16 was competing with the Famicom, it was pretty incredible. Ron says, not everyone likes incredible things.
Stick it!
Yes, Ron. Sonheck says, you're not playing it right. Well, Sonheck, I'm not pronouncing your name right. Jason says, it really is a game you have to learn to play. When you have the pod connected, when to disconnect it, and when to send it somewhere else. Memorizing the patterns. It's a classic shooter with great graphics. And I came from the Master System version. Robert says, it's a memorizer. Sometimes you can guess what the devs are telling you what to do next, but for the most part, winging it is not an option. Once you get it, and you will, you realize how brilliant the game is. Very rewarding. Just take some trial and error, and that version is insane for 1998. Thank you, Robert. David says, look up the code for 99 credits or whatever. It'll turn it from too difficult into an obsession. David then proceeded to, in the comments, give me the code. We'll talk about that code in a bit. David says, bro, for sure, laugh out loud. Radiant Silvergun, Ikaruga are some great ones to check out. If you haven't yet, there are tons of others too. Too many to talk about, David. Too many. It sounds like you, Klaus says, it sounds like you dislike R-Type independent of the quality of the conversion. There's nothing wrong with that. Thank you, Klaus. Matthew, good old Matthew, I have to say, this one was good. He posted a meme from Mad Max Fury Road of Max just pointing and saying, that's bait. Yeah, all right, I'll take that. This post was a little clickbaity, and here I am using it for content. Sebastian says, for the time, it was one of the best ports. I would say the SMS is more impressive from a technical and limitations perspective, but that doesn't mean the Grafx-16 PC Engine port wasn't one of the greatest. Maybe you just don't like R-Type. Sebastian, that could be true. Dennis, it really made route into big thing. You need to plan which laser is upgraded, when to detach, how to block. I don't like most of the series, but Delta was solid. Wow. It's just so many comments. And I could sit here and just read them all, and that's it. That's the episode. That's what everyone else thinks of R-Type. But that's not what we're doing here. Here we are going to talk about what I think of R-Type, because only my opinion is the one that matters, right? So R-Type is a world of pain, and there is no relief ever. If you want to see my experience with R-Type, you can head on over to the YouTubes at 2 Consoles Too Late. I did a couple live streams of me playing the game, and it's not really me playing the game. It's me constantly saving over and over and over when I got a little bit of progression. And in my gameplay, I made it as far as level 4, and that's only with save states. The the code for Extra Lives, I wasn't able to do it because I was emulating, and I don't think it would have made a difference at all. In Gradius 3, it helped, but in this game, I don't think 21 lives would have even lasted the first level. So here we go, R-Type. R-Type was released in arcades in 1987. It was ported to the Grafx-16 in 1988 by IREM. Now, the abbreviation I found for IREM stood for International Rental Electronics Machines, but on one video on the YouTubes I found it, they said it stood for Innovation Recreational Electronic Media. So I'm not sure which one is correct. I'm going to go with the Rental Electronics Machines one. Does it matter? No. Everyone knows the developer as IREM. And if you don't know who they are, they did the games of Moon Patrol and Kung Fu. I didn't know they did Kung Fu. Great beat 'em up. And it was also ported to the Sega Master System by Compile. Compile is the developer who did Guardian Legend, a game that we've talked about here before, and Blazing Lasers on the Grafx-16, a game that I played in comparison to R-Type just to see if it was me or the game. Now, how did I come across R-Type? Well, I always knew that it was a shooter, but I didn't know exactly how difficult this shooter was. I was cruising the shop Goodwills, and I saw that a loose disc of R-Type Delta was going off for a pretty penny. And it went off at $70. And that sort of piqued my interest. I was like, why is this game so expensive? So I looked it up on the YouTubes, and it looked like a bullet hell shooter on PlayStation. It's not a long box game, I can tell you that. So I decided, okay, well, I'm going to check this out, but if I'm going to do that, I'm going to do it right and start at the beginning. So I started playing R-Type for the Grafx-16 because I had such a wonderful experience with Newtopia. I decided to stick with the Grafx-16, and that is why I'm talking about R-Type. And also, the boys over at the Lost Joystick Network, Mike and Jay, they did an episode about this game, which I listened to after I started playing the game. If you haven't checked out their podcast, please do. Those guys have a great dynamic. So let's jump right into this shmup.
He said it again!
Known as R-Type. If you've ever seen the movie The Da Vinci Code, there is a character in that movie named Silas, played by Paul Bettany, who is a monk who whips himself with barbed wire to feel the suffering of the crucifixion. And that's kind of where my mind went when playing R-Type, because that's basically what R-Type is. You're just whipping yourself. It is a video game that is self-flagellation, because this game does not care about you. R-Type demands that you sit down for hours, that you learn the enemy patterns, you memorize the stage layouts, and you develop the patience of a monk. You have to learn every enemy spawn, every projectile, every boss pattern. This game is all about memorization. And to be honest, I don't want to do that. That to me is just work. Video games are supposed to be fun. They're not supposed to be work. And even with those good old save states, every time I sat down to play R-Type, I just found myself thinking, why am I doing this? The game starts with a very minimalistic title screen. It just has the title, Blast Off and Attack the Evil Bido Empire. With this big logo, it says R-Type. I think it's very iconic. And honestly, I think it's the kind of logo that you could put on a t-shirt. And so now when I go to RetroCons, I'm going to be on the lookout for an R-Type t-shirt. But cool branding does not make this game any easier. So let's talk about the mechanics. One of the defining features of R-Type is a charge beam. So instead of just firing constantly, in my comparison to Gradius 3, you would just hold the fire button and you had a steady stream of lasers. Well, in R-Type, that is not the case. When you hold the fire button, you get a charge beam that releases a very powerful shot. Now, in theory, that sounds great, but in practice, it kind of made the game even harder. But being a good shmup,
He said it again!
there are power-ups. The blue units give you the reflecting laser, the red units give you the ring laser, and the yellow units give you the ground laser. In addition to all that, you've got missile units, speed units, and something widely known in R-Type known as the Force Ball. The Force Ball is a detachable orb that acts as both a shield and a weapon, and you can attach it to the front or the back of your ship or launch it forward to deal damage, and that is part of the strategy of R-Type. And on top of that, you can also collect options, which are drones that hover above and below your ship and fire lasers along with you. Graphically, R-Type is very much inspired by the Swiss artist H.R. Giger, an artist that has inspired not just the Alien movies, but also other video games, most notably, we would say, the original Metroid. That is very noticeable with the biomechanical imagery of R-Type. And there's also lots of shapes in R-Type that look suspiciously like things that don't bear repeating on a family podcast such as this. The first boss is Dobkeratops. Looks very much like the Xenomorph from the Alien series. I would say that boss wasn't that difficult, but once again, it is rather memorable. The next boss on the second level is Gomander, a giant alien creature that looks like a floating heart that pumps out waves of enemies. So graphically, yes, this is very much inspired by H.R. Giger. But what also stood out graphically was the sprite flicker, another glossary word here at Two Consoles. So when the screen fills with enemies and bullets, things start flickering like crazy. Now, R-Type was not as laggy as a game like Gradius 3, but visually this game did get messy pretty fast. On original hardware on the Grafx-16, you could get 21 lives, and you did that by putting the turbo button on the original controller to the up position and pressing select N1, and that got you 21 lives. I was not able to do that as I was emulating this game, but I don't think that would have helped me. So I tried a different strategy. I tried, you know what, I'm just not going to shoot anything. I'm just going to try to dodge and try to get some progression that way. That didn't work either. And that's the thing about shooters. They require a very specific mindset. You have to have hand-eye coordination, pattern recognition. You need the ability to stay calm when the entire screen is filling with bullets and enemies. And I just don't have that mindset. And yet, I keep coming back to this genre. And I think that might be part of the mystique, that shmups have a reputation for being hardcore. It is a genre that is loved by collectors. That we saw that in the comments, and some of these shooters they command some pretty big prices on the retro video game market. Games like Starblade Alpha, which is a PS1 long box game, that's an $800 game. And games like Radiant Silvergun, a Japanese import for the Sega Saturn, that's $100. And what brought me to R-Type, once again, was seeing a loose disc on the shop Goodwills go off at $70. So, as a genre, they are loved by collectors, and some of them are pretty expensive. So let's head on over to the shop Goodwills and see what's available on Auction Alerts.
Auction alert.
Alright, so if you're looking for a shoot 'em up for your retro video game console, sometimes they can be had on the shop Goodwills. And right now, I have bookmarked a copy of the Raiden Project for the Sony PlayStation loose disc. This is coming from the Goodwill of Greater Milwaukee and Chicago. This is a PS1 long box game, but this is a loose disc of the Raiden Project. That game included Raiden 1 and 2. You can check out my live stream over on the YouTubes at Two Consoles Too Late. This loose disc is going off right now. It's got 0 bids and it's at $10. Price Charting has that game loose at $25. But R-Type was ported to the Sega Master System, and you can get a Sega Master System on the shop Goodwills right now. This is coming from the Goodwill of Northern Rocky Mountain SLC, Easter Seals. It's a vintage Sega Master System with controllers and 10 games. And of those 10 games included is Space Harrier and Astro Warrior, which were both shooters for the Sega Master System. R-Type is not included with this bundle, but you could play R-Type on the Sega Master System. It was ported to the Sega Master System by Compile, the developer of Blazing Lasers and Kung Fu. All right, that song is Granulations from Level 4 of R-Type, written by Masato Ishikaze. And in my online comments, I said that I found the music of R-Type to be so-so. And someone replied that I needed to GTFO. And this being a family-friendly podcast, I'm not going to provide the translation of what that means, but I will take that under advisement, sir.
Stick it!
I came to R-Type expecting some upbeat ditties like I found in Gradius 3, but it just wasn't there. And there was a lot of things with R-Type that just wasn't there. So I went over and I started playing Blazing Lasers, also known as Gunhead, for the Turbo Grafx-16. That is a vertical shooter. And immediately things just felt different. I was able to build up my weapons. I was able to get stronger over time. I was able to make some progress. And yes, I did die once or twice, but I wasn't punished and just thrown back into the Stone Age. R-Type, it just punishes you constantly. And I don't think that that was an accident. It was an arcade shooter. It was a quarter muncher. And I'm sure back in 1987 when this game was in arcades, it ate many a quarter and many an allowance was lost to R-Type. But the amount of passion that I've seen for this game, just in those online comments, I'm just fascinated by the shooter genre, and this one especially. I was curious. I came, I tried, and once again I got as far as level 4, and I got as far as the boss Hellmate. A boss with an electronic core that had an organic mass surrounding it. You had to shoot away the organic mass to get to the electronic core and blow it up, and I wasn't able to do that. And once again, I just didn't have that level of patience. And R-Type requires that level of patience. And I could use some more patience, especially these days. So R-Type, it's not really getting a thumbs up or a thumbs down here at the podcast. It's an interesting shooter. Some like it, some don't. It's not for me. When it comes to shooters, I'm more of a, like I said, Blazing Lasers, I had no problem with that one. And then I started thinking of like 1941. I remember liking that one in the arcade, a World War II shooter. So R-Type, give it a shot. And if you're willing to put in the time and the effort and the days and the weeks and the months and the hours and whatnot, maybe you'll like it. But here at Two Consoles, we saw, we came, we tried, and I don't feel defeated. I just feel that it just wasn't for me. And that's okay. On my social media feeds, I keep seeing advertisements for podcast studios. And I'm always kind of wondering, why would you want to rent out a podcast studio? Well, I can give you that answer right now. It's because you don't have to compete against two cats playing at 6 o'clock in the morning. And your heater which you thought you didn't have to use anymore because you just had 2 wonderful days of 80-degree weather, but then suddenly it starts snowing.
Stick it!
Maryland weather is it's a little crazy. I'm not going to blame global warming, but just if it's going to be warm, just stay warm. That all being said, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you for listening to the podcast. I've been the host, Jackson Keeler. You can check me out on the interwebs. Just type in 2 Consoles Too Late, and there I will be. Head on over to the Patreon. Check out the bonus podcast of Going Long, talking about my latest long box game acquisitions, as well as Zelda sequels. Lots of good stuff to be had. But as always, have a good one. I love you, and goodbye. This week's ticket is going to quote-unquote technological